and welcome to Lowrentrick Scale Modelling. This is a really special video. This is the one to commemorate 10,000 subscribers. So thank you to everyone that's subscribed so far. And if you haven't already, please do hit that button. It really does make a difference. So this build is the Tamiya Challenger 1 Mk.3 and 135 scale. And this video is sponsored by the Galleri Ambition series compressor and airbrush kit. A little bit more about that in a bit. I've got some codes for some discounts, all linked in the description. So now let's get on with what's in the box. Now, as you probably already know, the Challenger is a huge tank, and in 135 scale that translates into a pretty big kit. This is an incredibly detailed kit with a couple of really good paint schemes. So there's the NATO and the desert version. I'm going to go for the desert version. I'm really keen to try out a good bit of weathering. The tracks are extremely robust and they've got a really good gunmetal colour to them. I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do with those. As I've come to expect from Tamiya kits, the whole thing is in absolutely fantastic condition. I rarely see any overflash on any of these sprues. The plastic feels like it's extremely robust, and there's also some gauze and some extra little bits, and for the first time I've got some sort of nuts and bolts to bolt some of this kit together, so I'll see what they're for in a little while. Now, I do like a good detailed kit to get my teeth into, and this build turned into something around 20 odd hours altogether, including the build and the multi-stages of weathering. I didn't go too far with the weathering, I don't think. I think I laid it up in stages until it just had that look that I was going for. Pleased to see the kit comes with a couple of figures. You've got two different types, obviously one type for the NATO and one type for the desert. I really do think it makes a huge difference when you get figures with your kit. Quick look at the instructions to get the Tamiya paint listings. I use Vallejo paint, so I've just got to make sure I've got all the equivalents ready to go. For my hull colour, I'm going to mix up my own colour for the desert, because I find some of them are either too pale or too yellow, and I've got an idea of how I want it to go. So before I get into the paint mixing, let's have a word from our sponsor Galleri and have a look at their Ambition series airbrush and compressor. This video is sponsored by Galleri. They sent me over their Serena compressor and airbrush kit from their Ambition series. It comes with a classic CS36 airbrush. So inside the kit, quick reference guide to help you set up, but you're not really going to need that. It's very simple. It's got two airbrush holders because this compressor is powerful enough to run two airbrushes. So it does have a blanking nut on the base there to block off one of the outputs. Very easy to use, up and down. It'll go from 15 psi all the way up to 27, so you can find your manufacturer recommended psi. And as you can see, the nozzle at 0.38mm is perfect for both detail work and fill-in painting. It has been an absolute revelation to use this airbrush, a wonderful piece of kit. There are discount codes for both Galleri's website and for Amazon, linked in the description below. Please do check them out. It is by far the best airbrush and compressor system that I've used. Thank you very much for joining me, and now back to the video. You'll find all the discount codes and links to Galleri's website and to Amazon in the description below. So I'm going to mix up my custom paint colour. So I'm going to start with Vallejo Model Air. I've got a middle stone, a light brown and a yellow ochre. I'm going to mix them sort of 30% each, and then I'm going to cut that with some airbrush flow improver and some distilled water. So this will be the base coat that I put down on everything, and then I'll judge with my eye to see whether it needs more brown, more yellow, or whether it's just right, and then I'll add more to this bottle to bring it either way, judging by how it goes down on the model. So every single sprue will get a spray of this colour. It'll sort of act as a primer, if you will, or a base coat, just to make things a little bit easier going on. And as the colour goes on, I find that I've pretty much matched the colour of the plastic. It's slightly more yellow. Once it's dried on a little bit, I may adjust the colour one way or another. Now to get the road wheels out of the way, it's not the part of the build I look forward to the most. I don't dislike doing them, it's just an awful lot of work. It can be quite tedious setting up a production line. So the key to the road wheels is getting them all prepared, making sure you leave no little edges behind. What I'm going to do to mark these up before I paint them is I'm going to go round each edge with a Sharpie to get the line in, and I find that then when I start to paint over them, the paint will go down the line of the Sharpie, and it'll just help them look more realistic. Once I've got them all marked with the Sharpie and the PE inserters are put inside, they're going to get glued together, making sure obviously not to glue the insert together with the wheel. And then they're all going to get painted and then dried off with the airbrush. So you can see the airbrush there is just drying off the paint so I can handle the things. It makes it much easier for me. Next, the bottom hull assembly for all the wheels to go on. And as it is going to be where the wheels go, I'm going to make sure I get all the painting correct before the wheels go on. And this is where you use the first of your two screws. They go in and hold on the drive wheels really firm, so you can put quite a bit of tension on the tracks when it comes to putting the tracks on. So I'm going to make sure that this is painted up and ready. And once the bottom and the top hull go together, I'll then do a little bit of weathering before adding a bit of varnish. It's going to be gloss varnish first, and then Vallejo matte varnish over the top of that. Assembling the rear panel with the tow bar and the extra fuel tanks on the back. The fit is extremely tight. It's so accurate. It almost just slots together and stays together on its own. To get the tracks to stick together, I'm just going to use a gas soldering iron, as it says in the instructions. I've never actually melted one before. I usually glue them, but these are really big tracks, so I'm going to use the gas soldering iron to melt the four plugs and then just apply them over. So I can afford to put a bit of stress on there because the road wheels are screwed in. Now that I've got a gloss coat down, I'm going to try a little bit of basic weathering. There's going to be a few layers goes on, so I'm going to use some Tamiya panel line accent colour in dark brown to mark up all the little hatches and all the vents and just see how that sits. I may add more to it later. I don't want to over weather, so I'm going to be building it up little by little and then assessing it as I go through each stage. The only part I really had trouble with was the barrel. I found the fit was just a little bit off, so there was quite an overlap. So I made sure that that overlap was on the base or the bottom edge of the barrel because it has got a top and a bottom. When you put the nozzle piece on, it is notched to make sure there's a top and a bottom. And so the largest screw in the set, the screw and nut, is for the barrel. It's so that the barrel remains stiff because it's so huge. It will put quite a bit of weight on. So That just goes in there to make sure that you can position the barrel wherever you want it. I'm going to paint up some of the bands and the nozzle of the barrel in gunmetal, so Vallejo gunmetal. One or two of the bands go that colour too. And then I'm going to make the canvas a light brown, and I'm going to leave the straps in the desert camo colour. Hopefully I'll get a really nice effect. Here's a close-up of the barrel once I'd painted it up and done a little bit of weathering. It's still got the gloss coat on it, so this is before the matte goes on. But I'm really pleased with the way it looks. The material coating has really come out and made it look like it is actually made of material. Once the matte varnish goes on that, I think it will be really nice. Now the hull and turret are complete, I'm going to move on to making the baskets, and the instructions do provide a really handy little life-size cut-out guide here, so you can get all the basket panels just right. What I didn't realise, or what I didn't think about, is that page that I cut out has instructions on the back. So just beware of that. Although it wasn't something really important, I could figure it out. Just be aware that if, like me, you go and make a mistake and cut out the instructions and cut them up as a template, it could be something quite vital, and it could be quite frustrating. Before we move on to the final weathering and paint, I've got to get all the little tools and accessories painted up and put onto the hull. There's some steel wire rope that runs down the line of the armor plating, and a crowbar and some a pickaxe and a shovel and things like that. So they're going to get silvered up and put onto the hull first. The whole thing will now get a coating of Vallejo gloss varnish and acrylic water-based gloss, watered down at 50%, so, which will allow me to use a little bit more of the panel line accent colour, and then get some weathering on, and it will do that without affecting the paint underneath. I brought the panel liner exclusively for planes, but I realised it does a really good job of bringing out all the seam lines and hull plating lines on the armour as well. To weather the surface of the tank so it doesn't look quite so brand new and looks a little bit more sandy, I'm going to use light brown, but I'm going to be dry brushing. So I'm going to go very, very light with the dry brushing all over every surface. Stand back and take a look, and then see if any areas need more and more. And once I've got it to the stage where I think it looks just about right, that's where I'll maybe look again at maybe some of the panel lines, see if any more need some blacking in. A little bit of the gunmetal, I'll dry brush a little bit. That brings out the joints, the nuts and bolts, and then I'll look finally for the black, and then maybe a coating of the matte varnish. Now the Tank Commander, it's so nice to be working in 135 scale to do a figure instead of a 172 scale pilot. Now he has got a bit of a seam on him, so I've sanded it down a little bit, and then I just use the Tamiya extra thin just to go over the surface. And what that does is it gets rid of any little bits or any little edges that I've left behind. And now I'm going to undercoat him with the light brown Vallejo. A quick coating over with a very thin wash of yellow ochre to give some depth to the material, and then yellow ochre on the helmet, which will have a few layers, as that should be a nice sandy colour. We're going to do a light brown speckled sort of camo pattern, a little bit like what's in the instructions, with a little bit of my own take on it as well. He's going to be wearing a dish dash, which is going to have a black speckled pattern on it, and then there's going to be some shades on there as well. And then in gunmetal, we're going to do the radio harness and equipment, and I'm also going to add some tattoos, I think. I've never thought to do tattoos before on a pilot or on a squaddy. Don't know what made me do it this time, but I think I made a good job of it. There's only a few options to do with the decals. They are going to be settled on with a little bit of matte varnish. As the varnish dries, it does tighten it down to the shape of the model. And then over the top of that, we're going to do a little bit more dry brushing just to add a bit of weathering onto the decals. Last few bits of detail now. There are what look like a couple of halon fire extinguishers to go on. I've got to do the commander's gun turret with the GPMG. Obviously, I'm going to paint up those little pads in some nice forest green, and then weather those over with a bit of sand colour. Because if you've ever been inside a Challenger, you'll find that everything's green in there. Then we're going to do the headlights and the smoke discharges. They've got to have a nice black cap on them. Once that's done, we'll do the final weather and the final varnish. Here I'm going to use dry brush gunmetal to bring out some of the details in the panel lines and make it look a little bit smoky and a little bit dirty in places. Now add a little bit more sand dry brushing over the decals. Anywhere where I've gone a little bit too heavy with the dirt, just bring it back again with a little bit more sand, and hopefully the balance of the two will make it look great. I need to add a little bit more black wash to bring out these vents and grills, the louvers, a little bit more, and a lot more onto the joints. So any nuts and bolts, I'm going to bring them out with a bit of black wash, which looks really severe at the moment, but as it dries it does back off quite a lot because it's only about 20% paint to 80% distilled water, so it will dry off a lot paler than it's going on. Now a couple of coats of the matte varnish to take the shine off it a bit. The gloss is great for repelling anything that you put on for weathering, and then you put the matte over the top just to take that shine away. So here we are almost 22 hours later. The Tamiya 135 scale Challenger 1 Mark III, an incredibly detailed model. It's actually come out really big. I really enjoyed this one. I underestimated just how detailed this would be and how many parts there would be. I really took my time on the weathering and I got it just where I wanted it to be. So I'm really pleased with how it came out. Thank you everybody that subscribed and got me past the 10,000. Please, if you haven't subscribed already, please do consider it. Check out the links in the description from our sponsors Galleri. There are discount codes there for their own website and for the Ambition series airbrush and compressor kit on Amazon. Join me in the next video and thank you again. Bye bye.